Hey everyone, and welcome back to the English Learning Podcast. I'm your host, Henry.
And I'm Sarah. It's so great to have you with us again. If you're new here, this podcast is all about helping you improve your English, step by step in a fun and relaxed way.
That's right. Whether you're learning English for school, work, or just because you love it, you're in the right place. Today's episode is going to be super helpful because we're talking about something everyone wants to achieve.
Yep. We're diving into 5 steps to improve your English fluency. So if you've ever felt stuck trying to speak smoothly, or if your words just don't flow the way you want them to, stick around. This episode is for you.
And don't worry, we're keeping things simple, friendly, and practical. No boring lectures here, just real advice you can actually use, and a little motivation too.
And hey, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future episodes. We've got a whole playlist full of great tips, lessons, and fun English chats.
All right, are you ready to speak more confidently, sound more natural, and feel more like a fluent English speaker?
Let's jump into it.
So, Sarah, before we dive into the 5 steps, let's talk about fluency for a moment. I feel like that word gets thrown around a lot, but what does it really mean?
Yeah, it's a big word in the English learning world. For some people, fluency means speaking without pauses. For others, it means sounding like a native speaker. But really, fluency is more about being able to express your thoughts comfortably and clearly, even if you make a few mistakes.
Exactly. You don't need a perfect accent, and you don't need fancy vocabulary. You just need to keep the conversation flowing. And honestly, mistakes are part of the process.
Totally. I remember when I was learning French. There were so many times I froze mid-sentence trying to think of the right word. It was frustrating. But the more I practiced, the more I relaxed. And that's when fluency really started to happen.
I can relate. I had the same experience learning Spanish. At first, I was so focused on grammar that I could barely speak. But once I started thinking more in Spanish and speaking without overthinking, it made a huge difference.
And that's why today's episode is so important. We're not just talking about learning English, we're talking about living in English, thinking in English, speaking with confidence.
Yeah, and these 5 steps we're going to share aren't just tips. They're habits that fluent speakers build over time. So if you're listening and you feel stuck or shy about speaking, don't worry. You're not alone, and this episode is going to help.
All right, let's get into step number 1.
Okay, let's kick things off with step 1. And it's a big one. Practice speaking every single day. Yep, every day. Even if it's just for 5 or 10 minutes.
Right. A lot of learners wait until they feel ready to speak English, but here's the truth. You get ready by speaking. You can study grammar for years, but if you don't open your mouth and actually use the language, fluency stays out of reach.
Exactly. And daily speaking practice doesn't mean you have to talk to a native speaker every time. You can talk to yourself in English, seriously. It's one of the best tools learners ignore.
I do that when I learn a new language. You can describe what you're doing. I'm making coffee, or I need to buy groceries. You're training your brain to think and speak in English, and that's real practice.
Here's a fun technique. It's called shadowing. You find a short English video or audio, like a podcast or YouTube clip, and try to repeat what the speaker says at the same time. It feels a bit strange at first, but it trains your mouth, ears, and brain all at once.
Yes, shadowing helps you pick up natural rhythm, pronunciation, even intonation, and you don't need anything fancy, just your phone, some earbuds, and 5 minutes.
Also, don't worry about making mistakes when you speak. That fear stops a lot of people. But mistakes are not a sign of failure. They're a sign you're practicing.
Absolutely. In fact, when you speak and make mistakes, you give yourself a chance to notice what you need to improve. But if you stay silent, nothing changes.
And hey, if you do want to practice with someone else, there are great apps out there, like Hello Talk or Tandem, where you can chat with native speakers or other learners.
Or you can join an online speaking club or even start your own with a few friends who are also learning. The key is to make it a daily habit, like brushing your teeth. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be consistent.
So, to recap, Step 1. Don't wait. Don't overthink. Just speak. Every day. Even if it's with your mirror, your cat, or your favorite podcast. Build the muscle, and the fluency will come.
Love that. All right, are you ready for step 2? All right, let's move on to step 2, and this one is a total game changer. Start thinking in English.
Yes, this step sounds simple, but it actually makes a huge difference. When you think in English, you stop translating from your native language. That means you speak faster, more naturally, and with less hesitation.
Exactly. When you're always translating in your head, it slows you down. You start asking yourself, wait, what's the word for that? Or, is this the right grammar? And by the time you figure it out, the conversation has moved on.
So instead of translating, try to live in English, mentally. For example, if you're walking outside and see a tree, just say to yourself, "That's a tree," or "The leaves are falling." No need to say it out loud, just think it.
I do that with grocery shopping. I'll look at my list and think, I need milk, eggs, and bananas. It becomes a mini English lesson built into your day.
Another trick is to change your phone or social media language settings to English. That way, you're training your brain to read and process English all the time.
Yes. And here's a fun one. Have an inner monologue in English. Like when you're cooking, you can think, okay, now I add the salt. Stir it slowly. It's like narrating your life in English. Sounds silly, but it works.
Or before bed, take 1 minute to think about your day in English. What did I do today? I went to work. I talked to my friend. I watched a movie. It builds fluency in your thoughts, which leads to fluency in your speech.
And don't worry if you don't know a word. Just try to explain it in simple English. For example, if you don't know the word candle, you might think, it's something with fire that gives light and it smells nice. That's already great practice.
That's such a good point. Fluency isn't about knowing every word. It's about being able to keep going, even when you don't.
So remember, don't just speak English. Think in English. Make it your default language in your head, and you'll be surprised how much more confident you feel when you speak out loud.
Beautiful. Let's keep it going. Step 3 is coming up next. All right, it's time for Step 3. And this one is all about vocabulary. But we're not just going to say, learn more words. Nope. We're saying, expand your vocabulary in context.
Yes, this is so important. A lot of learners try to memorize long lists of words, but the problem is they forget them fast. Why? Because they're learning them out of context. No story, no connection, no real meaning.
Exactly. It's like learning the word umbrella on a flashcard, but never actually using it in a sentence like, I forgot my umbrella, and now I'm soaked. When you hear or use a word in a real situation, your brain remembers it way better.
So the trick is, learn new words while doing something fun. Watch an English movie or series, read a short story or article, listen to a podcast, like this one.
Shameless plug. I love it. But seriously, it works. When you come across a new word, write it down with the sentence you saw it in. That way, you remember how it's used.
Totally. Let's say you hear the word confused. Don't just write confused equals don't understand. Write, she looked confused when the teacher gave the instructions. Now you see it in action.
That's what we mean by context, surrounding the word with meaning, emotion, and examples. And it's okay if you only learn a few new words a week. It's about quality, not quantity.
You can also try using word maps. For example, if you learn the word travel, connect it with related words: flight, suitcase, passport, adventure. This builds a whole web of vocabulary in your brain.
Yes, and use those words in your daily practice. Maybe you say, "This weekend, I want to travel. I'll pack my suitcase and bring my passport." Make it part of your world.
Another fun tip: keep a vocabulary journal. But don't just write translations. Include a sentence, the part of speech, maybe even a doodle or emoji that helps you remember.
Love that. So, to wrap up Step 3, learn new words inside stories, conversations, or real situations. That's how you remember them, and more importantly, how you use them naturally when speaking.
Exactly. No more boring word lists. Let your vocabulary grow like a tree, one branch at a time, connected and alive.
All right? Speaking of listening to things in context, Step 4 is all about listening skills. Let's get into it.
Okay, we're on step 4, and it might surprise you. It's listen more than you speak.
That's right. A lot of people think speaking is the most important part of learning English. And yes, speaking is huge, but listening is where it all begins. You can't speak fluently if you don't understand how the language sounds in real life.
Exactly. When you listen actively, whether it's conversations, podcasts, or movies, you train your ears to recognize natural speech, pronunciation, rhythm, even little expressions that native speakers use.
You also pick up on how people speak, like the tone, the pauses, the speed. That stuff is hard to learn from a textbook, but you get it naturally through listening.
And I'll be honest, it's okay if you don't understand every single word. The point is to keep listening. Your brain is like a sponge. It absorbs patterns, sounds, and sentence structures over time.
Here's a pro tip. Start by listening with subtitles, especially if you're watching a series or YouTube video. Watch once with subtitles, then again without. Or switch to English subtitles if you usually use your native language.
Yes, and podcasts are a fantastic tool. You can listen on the bus, during a walk, or while cleaning. Repetition helps too. Listening to the same episode more than once is actually a great idea.
Another technique is to pause and repeat. Hear a sentence? Pause. Say it out loud. That's a mix of listening and speaking practice. Double win.
Also, try to choose content that you enjoy. Don't just listen to grammar lessons. If you love cooking, watch a cooking show in English. If you like crime stories, find an English true crime podcast. You'll stay motivated.
Right, because when you're interested, you stay focused. And when you're focused, you remember more. Listening becomes something fun, not homework.
So, to sum up step 4, expose yourself to natural English as often as possible. Listen actively, even passively. Let English become the background sound of your life.
Yes, the more you hear it, the more natural it becomes to speak it. Listening feeds your fluency.
All right, time for our final step. Step 5. This one's about feedback and self-correction, and it's super powerful.
All right, here we are, Step 5, the final step in our fluency journey today. Get feedback and self-correct.
Oh, this one's a biggie. Because let's be honest, it's hard to improve if you don't know what you're doing wrong, and even harder if you don't know how to fix it.
Exactly. Feedback is like a mirror. It helps you see the things you can't notice on your own: pronunciation issues, grammar mistakes, word choices, the little habits that sneak into your speaking.
And guess what? Feedback doesn't always have to come from a teacher. It can come from a language partner, a tutor online, or even yourself.
Yes, one of the best ways to self-correct is to record yourself speaking. I know, it sounds awkward, but trust us, it works. When you listen back, you'll hear what sounds natural and what doesn't.
You might notice you're using the same word over and over again, like very or like, or maybe your sentences feel a bit flat. That awareness is the first step to fixing it.
Here's a simple method. Pick a short topic, like my weekend or my favorite movie. Record yourself talking for 1 or 2 minutes. Then listen and write down any mistakes or areas where you hesitated.
You can also compare your recording to how native speakers talk about the same topic. Notice the differences in structure or vocabulary and try again. That's self-feedback and imitation practice rolled into one.
And if you have a language exchange partner, just ask them, "Hey, can you correct me gently when I speak?" Most people are happy to help, especially if you offer to help them with your native language in return.
Just remember, feedback isn't criticism. It's a tool. Don't take it personally. Use it to grow. Every mistake you catch is actually progress in disguise.
That's right. Fluency isn't about being perfect. It's about being aware and improving bit by bit. Getting feedback and correcting yourself regularly builds confidence and sharpens your skills fast.
So, step 5 is be open to correction and be brave enough to check your own work. It's how the best learners become fluent speakers.
And that wraps up the 5 steps. But before we say goodbye, let's quickly review everything we covered. All right, folks, let's quickly recap the 5 steps to improving your English fluency. These are simple, powerful, and totally doable.
Step 1. Practice speaking daily. Even if it's just to yourself, get those words flowing out of your mouth.
Step 2. Think in English. Stop translating. Start living in the language, even in your own head.
Step 3. Expand vocabulary in context. Learn new words through real-life examples, stories, and situations, not isolated lists.
Step 4. Listen more than you speak. Surround yourself with English. Podcasts, movies, conversations. Let your brain soak it up.
And step 5. Get feedback and self-correct. Record yourself, review, reflect, and improve. Every small fix moves you forward.
If you follow even just one of these steps consistently, you'll notice real progress. But combine them all, and that's where fluency lives.
Absolutely. Be patient with yourself, keep it fun, and remember, fluency is not about perfection, it's about connection, expression, and progress.
Well said, Sarah. All right, learners, stay with us. We'll be right back with some final encouragement and next steps to keep your English journey going strong. Before we wrap up, let's take a minute to answer a few common questions we hear from English learners all the time.
Yes, these are questions that come up again and again, so if you're wondering about these things, you're definitely not alone. Question 1. I don't have anyone to practice speaking with. What should I do?
Great one. First, talk to yourself. Seriously, it works. Describe what you're doing, tell a short story, or pretend you're explaining something to a friend.
Also, try language exchange apps like HelloTalk, Tandem, or join English groups on Facebook, Reddit, or Discord. You'll be surprised how many people want to practice too. Question 2. How do I stay motivated when I feel like I'm not improving? Oof, we've all been there. First, remember that progress isn't always visible. It happens in the background. One day you'll realize you understood a whole show or had a full conversation, and you'll think, wow, I've come a long way.
Also, celebrate small wins. Did you speak for 2 minutes today? High five. Learned 3 new words? Awesome! Fluency is built one brick at a time. Question 3. Should I focus more on grammar or vocabulary? Great question. The short answer? Balance. But if you're aiming for fluency, vocabulary and speaking come first. Grammar supports it, but don't let it stop you from talking.
Yes, communicate first, polish later. Don't wait to be perfect. Use what you know and build as you go.
All right, we love your questions, so keep them coming. You can leave comments, message us, or even send in a voice note. Maybe we'll feature your question in a future episode.
Now, let's close things out with a little encouragement and some next steps.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode on 5 steps to improve your English fluency. We hope you found these tips useful and that you're feeling motivated to put them into action.
Remember, fluency doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey filled with practice, patience, and a bit of fun along the way. The key is consistency, making English a part of your everyday life.
Absolutely. Whether you start speaking daily, think in English, expand your vocabulary, listen more, or seek feedback, just start somewhere. Every little step counts.
And don't forget, we're here with you on this journey. Keep sending us your questions, share your progress, and stay connected with the community.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with other English learners. It really helps us bring more content to you.
Next week, we'll be back with more practical tips to help you improve your English, so stay tuned.
Until then, keep practicing, stay curious, and most importantly, have fun with English. You've got this.
Thanks for listening, everyone. See you next time.